I love a good wrestling callback, because when you see it, you get all warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum, and it just justifies your wrestling nerdom. You understood what they were talking about, because you've been watching. Sometimes these do go over people's heads as well, which is also the point, because it's meant to be like an Easter egg in reverse. No, I don't know what that meant either. Basically, what I'm getting at is that sometimes it does take years before you go, now I understand. So hello, I am Simon from What Culture. Please do hit that subscribe button. And here's 10 amazing wrestling callbacks that are totally going to blow your mind and your feet. Number 10, Samoa Joe barges MJF. So this one has been thrown back into the ether recently because AEW took this, they turned it into a little bit of a storyline. Happening down on NXT when we had the pay-per-view takeover Brooklyn #2, Samoa Joe was the world champion, so when he was headed to the ring and he was surrounded by security, he pushed one of them into the wall before he was all like, I'm not a nice person. Now, nobody thought much of this at the time because, again, it's just Samoa Joe doing Samoa Joe things, but in 2023, do you know who this individual was? Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Because a young 19-year-old Max had been brought in to do WWE extra work, and 9 times out of 10, yes, that means you become a security guard. I mean, who would ever do anything like that? It is all part of the journey though, and as we know now, Maxwell Jacob Friedman is on top of the world, and because he is feuding with Samoa Joe over the AEW world title, well, he said to him, hey, Samoa, I never forgot what you did to me then, and now I'm gonna whip your ass. I mean, really the callback came when Samoa Joe stormed to the ring and once again he barged Friedman. And yeah, now they hate each other. I've really enjoyed all of this. Number 9, CM Punk with a golden nod to the past. So look, let's just ignore the madness and everything that did go down with CM Punk and focus on his AEW run, because there was a lot of good stuff in it. Always wanting to talk about the greats like Roddy Piper and Harley Race, somebody else that the Punkster was very affiliated with was one Tracy Smothers. That's what we're going to talk about today. A guy who was ahead of his time in many ways, especially because in the early 90s he was popularizing ladder matches. When he was done in the so-called big leagues, he just toured the indie circuit for ages, giving out advice. I just think that's very nice. This happened again in 2005 when he was competing for the IWA Mid-South promotion, when he decided to dress up like a golden vampire. And he did this to get the jump on someone. I don't know, you tell me. Wrestling's weird. The idea was to outwit one Larry Sweeney, so of course we speed forward to today. We remember the CM Punk and Samoa Joe feud, and how did Punk also get the jump on his enemy? Well, dressed up like the Golden Vampire. This also built to their amazing match at All In, and isn't it nice when you do a little bit of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to your mentors and those who have helped you? I say, yes. Number 8, Hangman Adam Page attempts to atone. So the booking of the Elite at All Out 2020 may be some of the best stuff that AEW has done. So we had a 4-way gauntlet for the AEW tag team titles that saw FTR versus the Young Bucks versus the Natural Nightmares versus the Best Friends. This was happening on Dynamite as well, so it was free television. Everybody was freaking out because we were going to see Cash and Dax and the Jacksons finally go at it. Oodalally. Around this time though, Hangman Adam Page was a mess and didn't know what to do, so after FTR had basically manipulated him, as soon as the Bucks were about to hit their Meltzer driver, they got screwed over by the Cowboy, and they were out of this match. This meant when we got to the big old pay-per-view, it was Page and Omega taking on FTR, and this is where once again Hangman showed his true colours, because he was evolving in front of our eyes. Because throughout the whole match, Adam was like, what do I do? I'm so conflicted. But just when Kenny Omega was about to be killed, he saved his friend in exactly the same way he had done earlier, although this time it was for the greater good. So yeah, he'd done a little bit of a turn. I mean, he even held his head in the same way. It was such a callback. And this is when melodrama in your sports entertainment can be so good. And why can't we be dramatic with this stuff? There ain't no rules. Number 7, Shawn Michaels knows his gear. So wrestling attire, or what wrestlers wear, is really important, because sometimes it can hit you in a way that you don't even consciously realize somebody's just come up with something really smart. As we are talking about Shawn Michaels, we can present Exhibit A, because do you remember when he won his final World Heavyweight Championship? He was wearing that weird grey brownie unfinished number. It was so bad, people are still talking about it today. I would imagine that HBK himself knew this, so when it was time for him to have those awesome back-to-back matches with The Undertaker at WrestleMania, not only was he going to put the work in the ring, but he was going to do everything outside of it too. Now, as we know, after his loss at Mania 25, the Heartbreak Kid was so devastated, he convinced himself he could defeat the Dead Man, so he was going to goad the real-life Mark Calloway into another fight. This meant the subsequent Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber pay-per-views were so good, because not only was Michaels eliminated from that Rumble, meaning that was one chance gone, he popped up in the chamber, and he cost the Phenom his world title. Ruh-roh. Now, of course, he got so into this, he also put his career on the line. That's what ties into his clothes. Because for the first time in his career, when he was going at it at that Royal Rumble, he was wearing the exact same attire that he was at WrestleMania 25. So the idea was he had become so irrational to the point of lunacy. It was also probably to send out a bit of a message, hey, I wasn't successful then, I'm not going to be successful now too. Number 6, Shawn Michaels does it again. Now, there is a reason that Shawn Michaels is always brought up as being one of the best ever, and it's because just his whole circle of work was so damn good. Look, I know he had his ups and downs. He is but a human. We go to the main event of Judgment Day 2000 here, though, as The Rock was taking on Triple H, and can you believe it, who was the special guest referee? It was the Heartbreak Kid. As we built up to this show, though, The Rock hit us with the right doozy, because he was like, oh, Shawn, of course you're going to be the official. I remember what happened on the first ever episode of SmackDown. You realigned with your D-Generation X buddy, and you super kicked me right in the face. He did. This led to the Great One telling Michaels never to do this again or else. When we got to that match, and when the People's Champion was going for the People's Elbow, keep your eye on Shawn Michaels. This is so damn slight and it's so damn subtle, but he kind of assumes the super kick position like he is going to do it again. Now, of course, he doesn't, but you just know it was there. So it really is one of those blink and you'll miss it moments, but it adds so much depth. This is why he's one of the GOATs. 5, CM Punk is online. It stands to reason today that most wrestlers are going to be on social media, because how could you not be? I'm on it, you're on it, your mum's on it, we're all obsessed. We do have to go all the way back to 2003 with this one though, when CM Punk decided to phone Ring of Honor owner Gabe Sapolsky and troll him. Why not? Because he pretended to be Homicide and he was all like, man, there's no way I can make it for the Final Battle pay-per-view because somebody here in Puerto Rico has offered me a bunch of money, so I'm very sorry, goodbye. He then started to shout Kojima and Lariat over and over again because that was supposed to be his opponent. And you should go and watch this online. It is on YouTube. Him and Samoa Joe make it quite funny. And you already know where this is going because you remember the Forbidden Door pay-per-view because we got CM Punk versus Kojima. And what did CM Punk do when he had this guy in the corner? He hit him with lariats while screaming the name of the move and going Kojima, Kojima. Because it was a callback. Number 4, the Easter egg. NXT is such a good wrestling show. Like, it's totally mad, but all the wrestlers are just Cyndi Laupering in it. They just want to have fun. They also kill people off from time to time, which has happened a lot with the Tony D'Angelo storyline. And look, remember old 2 Dimes? Well, if you do, you do, and if you don't, I'll be the one to break the bad news. In terms of the narrative, he's dead, or he's sleeping with the fishes. Because we were told that the former henchman had broken policy too many times. But yeah, he was just dumped into the sea, and apparently the police didn't care, even though this was caught on camera. 1 year later, though, when his old pal Stax was trying to figure out who had ratted out D'Angelo to the feds, he had one of those crime boards that was filled with evidence. And if you were an eagle-eyed watcher, do you know what was in the bottom left? That's right, 2 actual dimes. Now, I like to think that's another wink, wink, nudge, nudge to make you go, he's not really dead. Although this one kind of got ruined. If you watch AEW, 2 Dimes just turned up on that show. Number 3, the Sledgehammer. So look, given that I was there live, I'm happy to say this, WrestleMania 35 was too damn long. It honestly went almost 8 hours. That is a way to turn you off wrestling. It's also one of the reasons why when we came out of the other end of the pandemic, WWE decided to make WrestleMania a 2-night extravaganza. And it's why I implore you to go back and watch some of these matches individually, because they're a lot better when you do approach them that way. This also includes Triple H versus Batista, which was Big Dave's final match, and it's just a joy to watch, mostly because you know they love each other. And look, sometimes nice is nice. They also do a callback to the end of their feud at Vengeance 2005, though, because at one point Batista is going for the Batista bomb, and Triple H picks up the sledgehammer, and of course his plan is to smack him right in the head, because then he won't get pinned. Now, it didn't work at either of these shows, but back at Vengeance, Batista was able to hit his finishing move and get the 1, 2, 3, although here, I guess the game had learnt something, because even though he does get planted with the maneuver, Well, he kicked out when he went on to win. So once again, this was nothing major, but I do think it was meant to be a whole we did it again. I like that. Sometimes you don't have to overthink stuff. Number 2, Kenny Omega is the best. So nearly every single match that Kenny Omega does has some sort of a callback. To the point, I bet there's some out there we haven't even figured out yet. The man is some kind of wrestling savant. It's also why when he was booked in a triple threat match, he went out of his way to get rid of that old wrestling trope, which is, yes, it is a 3-way, but what's going to happen is one guy will go out the ring and then he'll get back in, and by that point, another guy will go out the ring. It's just what wrestling does. So it all began at All Out 2019 when Omega took on Pac in a brilliant match where he accidentally fell into the brutalizer and he had to tap out. Otherwise, he was going to be brutalized. Shift forward to Double or Nothing 2021 and he was facing the Bastard again. But the third person in this was Orange Cassidy. And as soon as Kenneth is in that brutalizer, he goes totally nuts and he flies backwards and he hurls Pac to the outside of the ring. It means that him and Orange can now do their planned sequence, but once again, it's such a minor touch, but it made all the sense in the world. So you weren't going, man, stupid triple threat match. It always dissolves down into one-on-one, and instead you were going, oh, I remember that. Good old Kenny. But one John Moxley wrecks Omega. So the first ever Dynamite basically ends with John Moxley taking Kenny Omega and DDTing him through a glass table. Now the referee didn't really care about this, which made no sense because it was not a no DQ match, but it did set up this feud, and as we know, it's pretty damn good. Now the idea, of course, is that John was the king of deathmatch wrestling, so was going to do deathmatch stuff, and because Omega wanted to do the best, he was going to try and keep up with this guy as best as he could. When the weapons were involved, he couldn't. Fast forward to Winter is Coming, when their feud really did peak because they were competing for the World Championship. And if you can believe it, even though it was years later, they made a callback to this. Because this time Mox made sure to Death Rider Omega's head into the World Championship, as if to say, listen dude, if you keep trying to do this, you are going to lose. And Ken actually agreed. So because he wanted to be the champion, do you know what he do? He took the path of least resistance, or he cheated. It was also when he decided to turn to the dark side and he teamed up with Don Callis when he did become the world champion and he went on that awesome 1-year run as a heel, and it's all because this hullabaloo kept smashing his head into horrible, horrible places. Callis was hinting at this the whole time as well, meaning nerds like me were screaming. I tell you, I just love pro wrestling. Not many other amazing callbacks that nobody talks about. Make sure you put it in the comments below before you like the video, share the video, and subscribe. There is another list on the screen right now somewhere. Make sure you do give it a click before you head over to whatculture.com and read some articles and some news and all that kind of stuff. And follow us on social media where you can call us goobers. My name is Simon for What Culture. Thank you very much for joining me as always. Smack that hand away from my head. One day I'm going to be dead. Hey there, would you like some bread? Shouldn't have ended the video this way. Goodbye.